Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most shocking developments on the Eastern Front, the sudden eruption of chaos along the Belarus-Ukraine border. Reports are emerging that Ukraine's special forces have launched a surprise attack targeting key Belarusian positions, marking a dramatic escalation in the conflict that has long simmered beneath the surface. This unexpected strike has caught military analysts and global observers off guard, raising urgent questions about what Ukraine's objectives are, how Belarus might respond, and what this means for the balance of power in Eastern Europe. In the early hours of the morning, explosions were heard near several border outposts along the southern regions of Belarus. Eyewitnesses described flashes lighting up the sky as Ukrainian drones and precision artillery hit communication hubs and supply depots used by Belarusian forces. Within minutes, Belarusian state media began broadcasting emergency alerts, claiming that their army was under attack by foreign saboteurs. Ukrainian sources, however, reported that this was a targeted military operation aimed at neutralizing Belarusian support units that had been aiding Russian logistics along the border. This indicates that Ukraine may be trying to cut off a critical lifeline that Russia has used for months to move equipment and reinforcements. For months, Belarus has walked a fine line, officially staying out of the fighting but quietly supporting Moscow's war effort. Satellite imagery and intelligence leaks have shown Russian troops stationed in Belarusian territory, training grounds filled with armored vehicles, and storage depots stocked with fuel and ammunition for the Russian army. Kyiv has long accused Minsk of allowing its land to be used as a staging ground for missile attacks and drone strikes against Ukrainian cities. The latest Ukrainian operation seems to be a direct message that Belarus can no longer act as a safe haven for Russian operations without facing consequences. What makes this situation so significant is not just the attack itself, but the precision and timing of the Ukrainian move. The special forces reportedly infiltrated the border zone under the cover of darkness, supported by advanced surveillance drones and electronic warfare units. The assault began with cyber disruptions that shut down Belarusian radar systems and communication lines, followed by coordinated artillery fire that destroyed several forward bases. Local sources claim that Belarusian border guards were overwhelmed within minutes, as Ukrainian commandos stormed key checkpoints, planting explosives and disabling transport routes used by Russian convoys. Military analysts are calling this one of the most daring Ukrainian operations since the start of the war. It showcases a growing confidence in Ukraine's special operations forces, who have evolved into one of the most capable units in Europe. Over the past 2 years, Ukraine has received training and intelligence support from Western allies, including the UK and the United States. Their new tactics rely heavily on speed, mobility, and precision, striking deep behind enemy lines and retreating before a counterattack can form. This border assault appears to fit perfectly into that strategy, a high-risk, high-reward mission designed to disrupt enemy logistics and create panic within Belarusian ranks. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has already gone on national television, condemning the attack as an act of aggression orchestrated by Western powers. He vowed a swift response, calling for emergency meetings with his military council and reportedly reaching out to Moscow for immediate assistance. Russian state media has echoed these claims, framing the incident as a joint NATO-Ukrainian provocation meant to destabilize Belarus and open a new front in the war. The Kremlin is now under pressure to decide whether it will commit troops to defend Belarusian territory, something that could stretch Russian resources even further as it continues to face mounting losses on other fronts. Meanwhile, in Kyiv, Ukrainian officials are maintaining strategic silence. They have neither confirmed nor denied direct involvement, but emphasized that any threat emerging from Belarus will be neutralized. This careful wording suggests that the operation was indeed planned, but is being kept unofficial to avoid giving Russia justification for full-scale retaliation. Behind the scenes, diplomatic channels in Europe are buzzing. NATO has called for restraint, while Poland and Lithuania have placed their border forces on alert, fearing that the violence could spill over into their regions. The timing of this assault also aligns with several key developments on the battlefield. Ukraine has recently intensified its counteroffensives in the east and south, reclaiming critical supply routes and destroying Russian ammunition depots. By targeting Belarus now, Ukraine may be attempting to choke off one of Russia's last logistical corridors. Experts believe this could disrupt Moscow's entire northern supply chain, making it harder for Russia to sustain its operations deep inside Ukrainian territory. In essence, Ukraine might be trying to force Russia into a corner, cut off its allies, drain its resources, and weaken its morale. However, the risks are enormous. If Belarus chooses to enter the war directly, it could open a new northern front for Ukraine, forcing Kiev to divert troops and resources that are already stretched thin. This could also draw NATO closer to a direct confrontation with Russia, as neighboring NATO states like Poland would be directly threatened by instability in Belarus. The entire European security structure could be thrown into turmoil. That's why the coming days are crucial. How Minsk and Moscow respond will determine whether this remains a localized operation or the spark of a much wider conflict. The human impact of the attack is also becoming clearer. Footage from border villages shows families evacuating as smoke rises in the distance. Belarusian social media is filled with panic, while Ukrainian platforms celebrate the operation as a bold act of defense. This stark contrast reflects the deep divide between the two nations, one standing with Russia and the other fighting for survival and sovereignty. In many ways, this confrontation at the border is symbolic of the larger struggle playing out across Eastern Europe, the clash between authoritarian power and democratic resistance. Internationally, reactions have been mixed. The European Union has expressed concern but also reiterated that Ukraine has the right to defend itself against any nation that assists Russian aggression. The United States has been cautious, urging de-escalation while reaffirming its support for Ukraine's sovereignty. Meanwhile, China has called for dialogue and restraint, attempting once again to play the role of a neutral mediator. Yet beneath these diplomatic statements, there's a growing sense that the war has entered a new and unpredictable phase, one where the traditional borders between allies and combatants are beginning to blur. As night falls over the Belarusian border, the situation remains fluid. Reports suggest that Ukrainian special forces have already withdrawn after completing their objectives, leaving behind destroyed infrastructure and chaos within Belarusian command. Lukashenko's forces are scrambling to regain control, while Russian reinforcements are rumored to be moving north to stabilize the situation. But the message has been sent loud and clear. Ukraine is no longer on the defensive. It is taking the fight directly to those who aid its enemy. This operation could redefine the strategic map of the conflict. For the first time, Belarus finds itself on the receiving end of a direct strike, and that changes everything. It forces Minsk to reconsider its alliance with Moscow, challenges Russia's sense of control in the region, and signals to the world that Ukraine is willing to take bold, decisive action to secure its borders. Whether this will deter further aggression or trigger an even larger escalation remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. The quiet borderlands between Belarus and Ukraine have now become one of the most volatile flashpoints in Europe. As we watch events unfold, it's worth remembering that wars are not just fought on maps or in headlines. They are shaped by strategy, courage, and the unpredictable human will to resist. Ukraine's surprise attack on the Belarusian border is a stark reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, a well-planned strike can change the course of a conflict. The world is now holding its breath to see what happens next. Will Belarus double down and join Russia fully, or will it pull back to avoid disaster? The next few days could determine not just the fate of the Belarusian border, but the future direction of this entire war. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more updates as this story develops. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you want to stay informed about the latest developments in global conflicts and military affairs.